Hello guys, this is FK, and if you have clicked on this video, definitely you are interested in the new Google ADK. That's the new Google Agent Development Kit. The AI world is all about agents now, and OpenAI released theirs, I think last month. OpenAI released their own framework for creating agents last month, and in the same steps, or following the steps of OpenAI, Google has also released their own agent development kit. You're already familiar with the agent development frameworks like LangGraph, Crew AI, and the rest. I did a getting started on Crew AI too on this channel. So if you're interested in Crew AI, Crew AI, you should check that out. So now we're doing one for Google ADK, Google ADK. And yeah, this is a promise. I'm also going to be doing one on the OpenAI SDK. But for now, in this video, we're going to be looking at the Google Agent Development Kit. And this is how this video is going to go. We're going to create a simple agent. We're first going to create a simple agent using the Google ADK that uses the agent's knowledge base to answer questions for a travel guide. Yeah, travel agents are like the to-do apps of the agent world. So we're going to build an agent that gives us the distance between where we're coming from and where we're traveling to, and also some restaurant suggestions like that and stuff. So the first phase of the agent is that it's going to use the knowledge base. Then we'll introduce some tools to the agent. We'll introduce some hard-coded tools to the agent, make it use some functions to answer our queries. Then we would move from that to use an intelligent tool, which is Google Search. We're going to build an agent. We're going to build our agent to use Google Search. The Google Search, live Google Search, and use it to answer our queries. So that is how this tutorial is going to be flowing. So if you're interested, let's get started. So here in VS Code, the first thing you have to do to create your agent with the Google ADK is to create your project folder. Just a folder. Yeah, just a regular folder. So you create your folder. Then inside that folder, this is going to be a Python project. So we're going to create a virtual environment. We're going to create a Python virtual environment. You can create it manually, but I'm going to be using VS Code. I don't need a command line for that. I'm going to be using VS Code's tools to create that. So using the command palette of VS Code, I will just create a virtual environment for Python, choose my Python version. And yeah, once you see the .venv file, you know that you have your virtual environment. You also need to make sure that your virtual environment is activated. For example, I think I already have it activated now. So I have .venv here. But you might need to, based on your operating system, activate it. There are different strategies for macOS, Linux, and Windows. I think for macOS, you have to run source.venv/bin/activate. But this has already been activated. That's why we have this here. So that's the first thing you need to do. You create a project folder. You will then create your Python virtual environment. So once we have that in place, the next thing we're to do is to create a folder for our agent. Now, the way projects are structured with the Google ADK, you can actually have a multi-agent system. So the project is not expected to only have one agent. So we're going to have one agent per folder. So let's create our agent folder. I'm going to call it travel agent. Travel agent. So call that travel agent. Now inside our travel agent folder, I'm going to start by creating a .env file because our agent is definitely going to be using the Gemini model. There are ways to use other models, but for now, we're just going to stick to the native, what is native to Google ADK, which is the Gemini models. So we need our API key, we need our Google API key or Gemini API key to allow our agent to make authenticated calls to the Gemini service and use any Gemini model that we have specified. So to get your API key, you need to go to aistudio.google.com. Yeah, aistudio.google.com. Click on the Get API key. It used to be here before, but now they've switched it here. So you click on Get API key. And on the Get API key page, you can create a key. You can create a new key. To create a new key, you need to click this Create API key button. And you create your key. You have to have a GCP project. So you pick one of your GCP projects here. And once you pick it, you just click Create API key in existing project. And you're good. You're good. Your API key is going to be displayed here. I've already done that, so I'm just going to be using my key. So let's go back to VS Code. And here in VS Code, I'm going to be creating environment variables to hold my key. And there's also one special environment variable that you need to set, especially if you know that you're going to be using a Gemini model and not a model from the Vertex AI. Google has Gemini models. There are also some models from Vertex AI, which is kind of their very first set of models or their first model service. I don't know why they're still keeping Vertex AI around. I believe it still has a lot of benefits to some people, but Gemini is the focus right now. But we'll see that later. So to set our Google API key, I'm going to say Google _ API _ key. And I'll set that to my Google API key. Now, I'm not going to show that in this video, so I'm going to be setting that behind the scenes. Then you also need to set Google Gen AI _use _vertex AI equals false. Yeah. Google _Gen AI _use _vertex AI equals false. This tells it not to use Vertex AI. Yeah, that's what it is. It tells it not to use the Vertex AI service, to use the Gemini service. So these are the two environment variables that you need to set for your agent. And note, this has to be inside the agent folder, not the old project folder, inside the agent folder. And I believe this will give you the opportunity to use different API keys for different agents. So yeah, that's that. But remember, you have to put your API key here. You have to put your API key here. But like I said, I'm not going to be showing that in this video. So now that we've set our environment variables for authentication, the next thing I'm going to create is our agent file. And I'm just going to call that agent.py. Agent.py. So call it agent.py. This travel agent is going to exist as its own package. So for that, we need to create a init file, init.py. And inside our init.py file, we'll just simply import our agent from the same package. So from that, import agent. So that's all you need to do in the init.py file. So with this in place, let's close this. Now we are going to write our agent. We're going to write our agent. And like I said, the first draft of our agent will simply answer based on the agent's knowledge base. So it won't have access to tools, and it will just basically function like a chatbot. It won't have access to tools or the web. It will just use the model's knowledge base. So to begin, we're going to say from google.adk.agent. Oh, wait. Yeah, before that, that's why I'm not getting suggestions. We need to pull up our project and install Google ADK. Yes, yes, that's something we should have done before we created our agent file. So let's install our ADK package. You open up your command line, and at the root of the project, we're going to install the Google ADK. So I'm going to say pip install Google ADK. Pip install Google-ADK. So it entered. Now, remember, this has to be at the root of the project, not at the root of your model folder. Their names kind of look similar, and maybe along the line, I might want to just change this so that it doesn't clash with this. But this has a dash. The main project file has a dash, which is travel-agent, but the travel agent itself has an underscore. So, but for now, let's just go with it. So pip install Google ADK. Let's have it in place. This will bring our Google ADK package. That is the agent development kit itself is going to bring it into our project. So we can now start using all the utilities and packages from that package to develop our agent. So it's done now. Getting some errors here, but I want to believe it's nothing. Let's just go ahead. If it causes anything, we're just going to rerun our installation code or command rather. So yeah, that's in place. Now I can say from google.adk agent import agent. And from this error, it already shows that it can't resolve my dependencies. So I'm just going to pull up my command line once again. And we'll run this command once again. Let's run this command once again. Hope there are no errors. Let's see. Okay, we're still, I don't think we still have our dependencies here. Let me check our VMV file to see if I have it in the lib folder. Oh, not there, definitely not there. So I think I'm just going to delete the environment. Let's delete the virtual environment. Let's clear the screen. I'm going to close out of this. Then I'm going to recreate my virtual environment. Let me recreate the virtual environment. Yeah, okay. So let us pull up the command line once again. Let me delete this. Let's pull up a fresh one. Let me activate my virtual environment. env/bin/activate. Good. Now let us run the command once again to install the Google ADK. Okay, it looks like we should have our agent. Yep, we have it installed now. So yeah, we can go ahead. Some bunch of installation issues. So let me just clear the screen. So with this, we now have our agent SDK in place, and now we can create our agent. So straight ahead, we're going to be creating our agent. And one thing you have to note is that the Google ADK needs a root agent to work with. It needs a root agent to work with. Like, you literally have to name the agent root_agent. Yeah, it needs a root agent to work with, because you can decide to create more than one agent in this file. In this file, you can create more than one agent. So, but one of them has to be named root agent, because that will be the first point of call. That will be the first agent to call whenever it needs to perform any kind of operation. So let's create our agent as the root agent. We're only going to be having one agent here, so we're going to create our root agent. And we just say agent. And first, we're going to give our agent a name. The name is going to be travel_agent. Now, I think I'll just to erase confusion, I'm just going to rename this guy Travel Assistant. Yeah, just bear with me. Travel Assistant. Yeah. So I'm going to call this guy also Travel Assistant. Yeah. Travel Assistant. So name Travel Assistant. The next thing we're to set is the model that this agent is going to use. For now, we're just going to use the Gemini 2.0 Flash model. Gemini 2.0 Flash model. That's good enough for what we want to do. So next, we need to describe the agent. We need to describe what it does. And that will be from description property. We're going to set that to a string. We call a string. And I'm just going to say an agent that helps travelers with distance calculations and weather information. Yeah. So it tells the user what the distance between their routers and also the weather condition at the destination. So that's what it basically does. Now, we also need to set the instruction property for the model. Now, the instruction property is for you to kind of put like a system instruction. It's for you to instruct the model, instruct the agent on what to do. Instruct the agent on what to do. This is more like this is more like a system instruction going to the model, underlying model that powers the agent. So we're going to define the persona of the agent. We're going to tell it what it is and what it should do. say you are to help travelers find the quickest route between two locations and the weather situation at the destination. Yeah, the weather station at destination. So that's what our agent is going to be doing. That's what our agent will be doing for us. So with this, we have our model. We have our agent. I don't know. I keep interchanging model and agent. We have our agent. We have our agent defined. So we have our route agent. Is a travel assistant. It uses the Gemini 2.0 Flash model. I'll give it the description just for the model to understand what this agent is supposed to do. Then we send a system instruction that defines what the goal of the model is. So yeah, what the goal of the model is. So we have this in place, and now we can test it. Yeah, it's ready. It's ready to be tested. To test this, you need to go to the root of the project, not the root of the agent itself. You need to go to the root of the project. And there are different ways we can test this. We can test it in the web UI, which we're going to be using in this demo. The web UI, that's what we're going to be using in this demo. You can also test it through the CLI so that you can interact with your agent through the CLI. And you can also make it into a fast API server. But we're not going to be doing that. Maybe in subsequent tutorials on this channel, I'm also going to be showing you how to get that done. But for now, we're just going to be testing it out in the highly interactive web interface. And to do that, like I said, at the root of the project, not at the root of the agent, run ADK web. Run the command ADK web. So ADK web, what this does is that it's going to do its thing, then spin up a web interface. It's called Dev UI. It's going to spin up a web interface where we can actually view and interact with our agent. And it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. I love using the interface. There was even a snippet video I made on this channel where I was just super hyped about the interface. So now the interface is running at localhost 8000. So I'm just going to copy that and go to my browser. And inside my browser, I'm going to put in the address. Oh, it's trying to Google the page. No, I don't want that. Localhost 8000. Don't Google it. Yep. Yeah, we're on the page. Localhost 8000. This is the dev UI for the Google Agent ADK. The Google Agent ADK, or the Google ADK rather. So this is the UI, and you can actually come to this drop down and pick any of your agents. For now, it has selected Travel Assistant by default because it's the only agent we have. But if you have multiple agent projects, you can actually select which one you want to interact with. So here, from this chatbot, we can just start relating with our agent. So I can say hello. Then the agent replies me. It tells me, hello, how can I help you plan your travels today? Are you looking to find the distance between two locations or get weather information for a specific destination? You see, it's already recognizing the instructions that we give it. So it knows its role and it's already trying to tell us, this is what I do and this is what I can help you with. So that's pretty cool. So let's say I will like to go to, let's say, Chicago from New York. So we tell our agent that we would like to go from Chicago to New York. Let's hit enter and let's see what it does. Say, okay, I can help with that. Distance, I can calculate the distance between New York and Chicago, whether I can get the weather conditions and forecast for Chicago. So he already knows that our destination is Chicago. So which of these will you like, or will you like both? Let's just say both. Both is fine. Yeah, both. Both is fine. So yeah, I say both is fine. And it will get it for us. It will get it for us. Now, if you look at this, it got the distance because that's not going to change. It's geography. The distance between two exact locations, if the locations still remain where they are, which definitely they will, the location is something that it can get from its knowledge base. But you see, as it's trying to calculate the weather, it's running this Python function. It's running this Python function that kind of calls Google search and blah, 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 blah. But that doesn't really give us anything. So through its knowledge base, it can get the distance, but it can't get the weather condition, because weather conditions are something that has to be gotten at the instant. It's a live thing. So you can't there's no fixed weather condition in a particular location. Yeah, it changes from time to time. So it's trying to run a Python function, use Google search and blah, 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 do that. So this shows the limitation when it just depends on its knowledge base. So we've been able to do this, and there's some cool stuff you can see on this UI. For example, you can see the event log, you can see what the agent is doing in real time. I also love, okay, we're not there yet, but when we start using tools, there's something I love also. You can also check states, even though we don't have any of those information right now. We don't have any of those information right now because we're just still doing a basic demo. But here we've been able to show how to create the agent, and it uses its knowledge base to answer our questions. But for now, it just still feels like a chatbot. It doesn't feel like something that can actually take an action. In the next section of this video, we are going to be providing tools to this agent for it to get distance and for it to get weather conditions. So in the first section of this video, we've been able to get our agent working and we can interact with it, but it is still limited by its knowledge base. We know that what really makes up an AI agent is the fact that it can take actions. AI agents are just models that can take actions with tools. Yeah, basically, they're just models that can extend their capabilities by taking actions, external actions, through the use of tools. So we're going to be providing tools to our agent for it to use to take the specific actions that we would like it to perform. So let's head to VS Code and do that. Now, the cool thing about the ADK is that you can simply just define Python functions and use them as tools. Yeah, plain Python functions. You don't even need to add any decorator. You don't need to add anything. Just plain Python functions, and you can use them as tools. So that's what we're going to be doing here. The first function we're going to be creating is a function that is going to return the distance and weather information. We're going to create that as a tool. We're going to create that and add it to our agent as a tool. We'll also create a function that would get restaurants, and I will tell you why we'll create that later on, even though it's not a core part of what our agent is supposed to do. So let's get started. First, I'm going to say define get distance. Get distance. So we define this function, and we're going to provide it two arguments. We need two arguments. From city, which will be a string, and to city, which will also be a string. So the city that the user is coming from and the city that they're going to, from city and to city, and they will both be strings. This is going to return a dictionary. This function is going to return a dictionary where we can return our status and also the results of our operation. So let's get out the function. Now, for you to make this function a usable tool, you need to provide a proper doc string that describes what the function does, describe the argument, and describe what it returns. Very, very important. This will help the model to be able to make use of the tool properly. This is like prompt engineering for the tool itself. So let's create our doc string. And the first thing we'll do is to describe the tool. So I'm just going to say this tool retrieves the information about the distance between the cities and the weather at the destination. That's what it does. Then next, we need to talk about the arguments. So let's say args. So for the arguments, the first thing we have is from city, which is a string. And this is the city the traveler is coming from. We have to city, which is also a string. And this, this city, yeah. This will be the city, the traveler is going to traveler, not travelers. So those are our arguments from city to city. Find them. And next, we have to tell you what it returns. So it returns a dictionary. And this dictionary is simply distance, information, and the weather at the destination. Okay. So these are our docstring. These are our documentation of the tool. Very, very important. Like I said, this is prompt engineering for the tool. It helps the model to make sure that the right parameters are extracted from the user queries and the tool is effectively used. So we have that. Now let's write the function itself. So we're simply just going to check the two cities, and we're going to add code some stuff because this function is not going to be smart. It's just going to be an hard-coded function. And we're going to say if from city, get the lowercase version, from city is equal to New York. Sorry. Let me go down. So if from city is equal to New York and to city dot lower is equal to Chicago, then we would simply return a dictionary, obviously. And our dictionary, we have two properties. First is status. For this, we'll just say success because we just want to test against New York and Chicago. Yeah, and from New York to Chicago. That's basically what we want to add code here. Definitely your tools are going to be smarter. They're going to call APIs and do stuff. But for now, we're going to be add coding stuff. So, what would then be the response? Response would be a tuple. The first information in our tuple will be the distance information, and we'll just say the distance between New York and Chicago is 345 kilometers. 345 kilometers. Now, this is definitely not correct. I just took 345 out of my head. And yeah, you would definitely recognize that I'm obviously not familiar with American roads for me to even use kilometers because they use miles. So yeah, and say weather is, we just add code something also, approximately, let's say something like 42 degrees Celsius. 42 degrees Celsius. So yeah, that'll be our response. That'll be our response for the from and to cities that we're going to be able to account for, or rather support right now. If you provide anything apart from that, we'll just simply tell you that we don't have the information. So our tool cannot help. Say status will be error. Status error, and our response, or let's just say our error message. Our error message will just be, we'll just use f string to pass a string and tell you, oh, sorry, I do not have distance information, distance and weather information. I do not have distance and weather information for this route. Yeah. So just say, sorry, we can't help you with that. Very, very sorry. We only support 2 cities. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. We only support 2 cities. So yeah, and you better not be going from Chicago to New York. It has to be from New York to Chicago. But yeah, so we have our tool. Like I said, we're going to be creating 2 tools. And the other tool is just going to tell us restaurants. Just going to tell us restaurants at our destination, so that when we get there, we can get something to eat immediately. So I'm going to say def get restaurants. Def get restaurants. This is just going to take city It's going to be the destination city, but we just passed that city. And straight up here, I'm just going to return a list. Let me make that known here. So I'm going to return a list. I'm going to return a list and put in some common eateries there. For example, Papa John's. Let's have McDonald's in there. McDonald's. Does a Mac come with A or is just MC? Let's say MC. Okay, so McDonald's and let's say Johnny Rockets. Johnny Rockets. Okay, so we just return that straight up. Yeah, no need to even check the city or whatever. We just assume that. So we have our two tools. They're tools, yeah, they're Python functions, but like I said, that's the beauty about this framework. You just define Python functions and they are already usable as tools. So to use them as tools, we need to add them to our agent using the tools property. So we call the tools property. It takes a list, and as you have expected, is a list of tools. So we have get distance, and we have get restaurants. Get distance and get restaurants. Those are our two tools. So with those added, we now have an agent that has actual tools. Yeah, we don't just have an agent that just uses the LLM's knowledge base and just functions basically as a chatbot. We now have an agent that has tools that it can use to take actions based on our query. So let's save that. Now let's go back to, let's pull up the command line. So noisy here right now because our session is still running. Let me close that. Let's abort the server. Clear. Then let's run ADK web once again. Once again, remember you have to run it at the root of the project, not at the root of the agent folder, at the root of the project. So let's run ADK web once again. ADK web. Booted up and the connection is open. So now let us check our browser. Yeah, we need to refresh so that we can get the updated version. So now we have our travel assistant. Nothing has really changed right now, but we're going to be testing stuff out and you're going to see what we get. So let's begin. First, let's say it says, how can I help you plan your trip today? So it recognizes the old trip thing. How can I help you plan your trip today? I need details on taking a trip from New York to Chicago. Let me use uppercase Chicago so that we can know that it's actually recognizing it and taking it to lowercase. So as you can see, it calls the tools. When I said I need details on taking a trip from New York to Chicago, it didn't go to his knowledge base. It recognized the appropriate tool to call and it called it. And now it tells me, okay, the distance between New York and Chicago is 345 kilometers, which, like I told you, I just made that up. And the weather is approximately 42 degrees Celsius, which we also had coded. So it did not consult the agent's knowledge base, which is the model, which is the training of the model. It picked the appropriate tool. We gave it two tools, one to get distance and weather information, and the other to get restaurants. It's recognized that it's supposed to pick the distance tool. It picked it, used it through this, and we are able to get information back regarding the distance between the two, the distance between the two locations, and also the weather conditions at the destination of the route. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Another beautiful thing is that when we test it with something that we don't account for, it will tell us it doesn't have information about it. So if I say something like, how about Las Vegas to Ohio? How about Las Vegas to Ohio? It tells us politely, sorry, I do not have distance and weather information for this route. So now it's working based on what our tool supports. It's not going out, it's not hallucinating. It's working based on what our tool supports, which makes tools another way to make sure that your models don't hallucinate and they use actual factual information, which is great, which is simply great. Then we can just, test out the whole restaurant thing and tell it, well, any restaurants at my destination? Are there any restaurants at my destination? And it tells us, can you please specify your destination? Still Ohio, whatever. And it calls the guest restaurants function. It then calls the guest restaurants tool. It calls the guest restaurants tool. And now it tells us, okay, I found these restaurants at your destination. Papa John's, McDonald's, and Johnny Rockets, which are just the restaurants that we had coded in. So it's simply beautiful. It's guardrailing the agent to not hallucinate when he cannot find answers, but use our tools. So it's not just using our tools, it's making sure it's not hallucinating out of the scope of our tools, which is amazing. So yeah, that's really, really beautiful. And one thing, like I mentioned, one thing I wanted to show in the previous section, when we just used the model's knowledge base, is that when you call tools, you can simply click on the tool and you get this lovely event information. It tells us travel assistant, and for this query, it's routed to the get distance tool and not the get restaurants tool, because that's the one that made sense based on the query. And it gives us a lot of information as to what happened, a lot of state information, a lot of metadata and stuff like that we can actually work with in our code. Shows us the request. Full details about the request. You see the system information. It basically packs both the instructions and the descriptions together. Function declaration information. It gives us the entire doc string of the function, the properties of the function. This is just simply amazing. And if we go to the response, we equally see some amazing the details that we can make use of. But I think the request actually contains a lot more stuff. So yeah. This is a very beautiful interface, and that's why I decided to use the web interface for this demo, because it has a more visual feedback that is available to you, especially during the development phase of the agent. But here we've been able to see the agent using tools, but these tools are hard-coded. Yeah, these tools are hard-coded, and we have to do it that way so that you realize that there's also that level. You can also just work with code, just strictly code. You're not calling any external APIs or stuff. You can just work with strictly code, and it can do things based on what is available in your database, what's available in your session information, what's available anywhere within your application itself. And also you can use these functions to call external APIs. Maybe you want to get something like stocks information and stuff, real-time information that you need to get. And even if the information is not real-time, you just want to access it from a factual source, stuff like that. But in the next section, right after this, we're going to be using a smart tool. We're going to be introducing a smart tool to our agent, and we're going to be doing that by causing our agent to be able to search the web. Yeah, to be able to search the web. So instead of trying to add code tools to do this stuff, why can't we just get the information by browsing the internet? So we're going to be doing that next. So we have taken the time to write functions for our agent to use, write tools for our agent to use, and we wrote them as pure Python functions. We introduce them to our agent, and our agent is able to call them as we have tested out in this web interface. Now we're going to be using a smart tool, which is search, and it's called grounding with Google Search. It's a process of grounding your model's knowledge base with real-time internet data. So grounding, that's the general term for it. So we're going to be grounding our agent with Google Search. And to do that, we'll come back to VS Code. And what I'm going to do is say from google.adk.tools. Yeah, there's a whole tools package, because there are built-in tools that actually come with the Google Agent development kit. So say adk.tools import Google Search. Yeah, just as simple as that. This used to be very, very complicated to implement before, but now it's just available natively as a tool in the SDK. So we get Google Search. Then I'm just going to go to my agent and replace these hard-coded tools, with the Google Search tool. Yeah, just replace. Oh no, I didn't copy that correctly. Control Z. Let's get Google Search. Let's copy. And okay, let me just comment this out. Let's comment this one out. And then say tools equal Google Search. Good. So that you can still see the history of our development. Yeah. So tools Google Search. And now Yeah, that's all you have to do. The agent now knows that it is to use the Google search tool to reply our queries. Yeah, straightforward. Let's see the difference in the results that we get. So okay, I kind of spelled travelers wrong here. Didn't notice that. Travelers. Okay, good. So we have Google search in place. We imported it from Google ADK.tools, Google search, and we now introduce it as the main tool. So let's pull up the command line once again. Let's shut the current session down. I need to click into the command line and say control. Yeah, okay. So shut that down. Let's clear this all. And once again, and I will still repeat it, at the root of the project, not the root of the agent folder, at the root of the project, run ADK web. On ADK web, it has spun up the server. It's now running at localhost 8000. Now we can go to VS Code. I'm going to super refresh this. And now we once again get our UI where we can test our agent. Make sure that travel agent is selected here, just in case you have multiple agents. So now let us ask it questions and see the type of responses it begins to give us. So first I'm going to do the typical hello so that it can just introduce itself to tell us what it does. So it tells you, how can I help you with your travel plans today? Are you looking to calculate the distance between two locations or check the weather at your destination? Ditto. So yeah, I will say I'm looking to travel from, now let's switch things up. Let's say Chicago to New York. Yeah, I'm looking to travel from Chicago to New York. So what does it tell us after that? Yeah, it does Google search. And it says, yeah, okay, I can help you with that. Then it dumps a bunch of references just to show us where it sourced the information from. And it tells us, okay, here's some information for your trip from Chicago to New York. The distance is, the distance calculation between Chicago and New York is approximately 763 miles. So I wasn't even close at all. The shortest flying distance is about 714 miles, which is 1,149 kilometers. Travel time, 3.5 to 4.5 hours. Driving approximately. This is a lot of details. And why not? It comes from the internet, so a bunch of details. Weather in New York, currently it is cloudy in New York. The temperature is 72 degrees Fahrenheit, which is approximately 22 degrees Celsius, but it feels like 76, 25. There is 0% chance of rain. Awesome. It's New York, so yeah. The forecast for today is a high of 85 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 58 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like 85, 58. That's like flip. So yeah, it says, is there any other thing I can help you with? For example, flight prices, train schedules, and stuff like that. Let's ask it about restaurants. Now that it's a lot smarter, let's ask it about restaurants. How about restaurants? Since you want to be very helpful, how about restaurants? Tell us about restaurants. And like you see, it's showing all the references, which shows that this is coming live from the web. So how about restaurants? Tell us restaurants that we can find. It's taking a while because it's doing a Google search. And now I say, okay, here are some restaurant recommendations in New York City. And it says the highly rated and popular choices are Le Bernardin, Gramercy, Tavan. Oh yeah, these are the high ones. And I was busy suggesting Johnny Rockets and McDonald's. Then noteworthy restaurants include Mason, Parcellerie, Real, Yamada, Here and There, Rayon. Another recommendations, Lungi Bar restaurants, Soda, RH Rooftop. Like my restaurants didn't even make the top 10. So yeah, this is real live data coming from reliable sources. Just because we have introduced Google Search as a tool to our agent. And it just shows you how easy it is to build agents using this framework. I'm falling in love with this framework a lot. I'm also checking out the OpenAI framework, so maybe one day I'm going to be doing a comparison between the two. But I'm really falling in love with the Google ADK. It just makes a lot of things smooth, and it follows like very, very nice conventions, very, very developer-friendly conventions that will help you to quickly get your agent up and running. So that's how we're getting started. If you would like other tutorials, let me know in the comment section. And I always remind you to check out Landcast.com for quality classes on AI engineering and AI engineering frameworks.